Break the ice. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam.
How are you, brother?
Alhamdulillah.
Thank you so much for taking the time out of your busy schedule to come and visit us here at the Deen Show.
It's my pleasure, brother.
We have got to mention a few things about you. You were actually a former minister, a deacon.
Ordained deacon in the United Methodist Church.
And you have a master's degree in divinity from Harvard University.
From Harvard Divinity School, correct.
Wow. This is, and the list goes on. You were a preacher starting at a young age. You worked as a youth minister, ordained minister, and the list goes on. We have some books also here that you have authored.
Yes.
We're going to mention a few of the books here. You have the Abraham, the Friend of God, which is this book here.
Well, it's actually the Abrahamic Faiths.
The Abrahamic Faiths. You have Easy to Understand Islam. It's another book here. We have Muslims in America, the history.
Yeah.
And you have Letters to My Elders in Islam.
Yes.
You have Understanding Islam. Now, you've written a lot of books on Islam, and the Crescent and the Cross.
Yeah, the Cross and the Crescent. Yes.
You like to write, huh? So these are some of your books that you've authored. You're obviously very busy writing books. You are out there trying to now mend the bridges, build the bridges to help develop a better understanding between Islam, the Muslims, and people of other faiths.
Yes.
But we want to hear about your story. We want to know, why would someone who was so high up in the ranks, who had so much knowledge of Christianity, you know the Bible well, what happened? Let's talk from we'll get a little bit of a history from a young age. Talk to us. Tell us how you got involved in Christianity and your parents and etc.
Sure. Actually, there's probably 4 parts to the story.
Yes.
And the first part would be sort of my journey into the Christian ministry.
Yeah.
The second part would be my leaving the ministry.
Mm-hmm.
Third part would be my years as what I called an atypical Christian.
Yeah.
And then finally, the fourth part, my journey into Islam.
Mm-hmm.
But you ask about the first part, which is my sort of journey into the Christian ministry.
Yeah.
I grew up in a small rural community in Kansas where the church was the center of community life. It was a small town of about 500 people. We had 3 churches. Every summer there were ice cream socials at the churches, chicken pot pie dinners,
Mm-hmm.
corn roasts, etc.
Mm-hmm.
And the churches really were the center of community life. And that was true for my family as well.
Mm-hmm.
We attended the local Methodist church, and throughout my childhood, I was very actively involved in collecting my perfect attendance pins from Sunday school,
Mm-hmm.
my awards for memorizing biblical verses, etc. And so by the time I reached junior high school, I was already considering the ministry as a personal calling. And about that time, during the annual Youth Sunday, I was always selected to deliver the sermon. And word of that got around, and before long I was preaching at various other local churches upon occasion, at nursing homes, at various church-affiliated organizations, etc.
How old was this at?
I was probably about 14 when this started.
Very, very young age.
Yeah. And so I continued in that direction. And at age 17, I entered Harvard College as an undergraduate with a philosophy major, which was gearing towards seminary,
Mm-hmm.
and continued on in that direction. In 1969, I received my license to preach from the United Methodist Church. In 1971, graduated as an undergraduate and entered Harvard Divinity School, which is a 3-year program leading to a degree in Master of Divinity. In 1972, I was ordained a deacon in the United Methodist Church, and in 1974, I graduated with a Master of Divinity from Harvard Divinity School. Spent that summer as an interim minister in 2 rural parishes in Kansas. But in the fall of 1974, I left the ministry, or at least left the parish ministry. I was still an ordained minister, but never again would I fill a pulpit after the fall of 1974. Which probably brings us to the second part of the story, if you want to move in that direction.
Yeah, tell us, will you go into that? Why did you end up, I mean, you were filling the pulpits. I mean, did you have like a big crowd? People would be excited to come listen to you preach. And did you guys have a band? How did that work? To describe this atmosphere.
Well, at the risk of sounding immodest,
Yeah.
Typically everywhere I preached, we set attendance records.
You were like a Jimmy Swaggart at the time?
Please don't do that.
Of your community, maybe a Joe Osteen of the small little town? Or
well, I don't want to do comparisons, but
yeah.
Suffice it to say, attendance typically skyrocketed.
Oh, nice.
When I was behind the pulpit.
So people knew who you were?
Yes.
They wanted a ticket to get into this church to see and to hear what you had to say, because you had knowledge. You were a man of knowledge.
Amongst other things, yeah.
Okay, so talk to us now from filling the pulpits, people lined up, wanting to hear what you had to say, from preaching the Bible. What now led you to leave the pulpit?
Well, when people ask me, I usually say there's a long story and a short story.
Yes.
The short story is a good seminary education. The long story takes a little longer. But